In the silent cemetery, the Mafia boss knelt before his wife's gravestone, weeping as if his soul had been torn from his body. What he never imagined was that his wife was alive, watching from the shadows, about to unleash a truth that would set Los Angeles ablaze. The cemetery was gripped by an unnatural silence, the kind that comes when even the wind holds its breath. Han Woojin walked alone through the mist with heavy steps, his $10,000 suit soaked with dew, his face carved from grief as if life had abandoned him along with his wife. It had been 6 months since the Korean Mafia boss attended Naomi's funeral after the warehouse explosion no one could have predicted. His wife, the woman who'd conquered his heart and helped build his empire, had gone to inspect a shipment at their facility in the industrial district. A routine check that should have taken an hour. But while Naomi was inside, a devastating fire consumed everything. LED found charred remains and among the rubble her wedding ring. Han didn't question it, accepting the death, drowning in an ocean of guilt and rage. Welcome to the family. If you're drawn to stories of love forged in fire, betrayal met with vengeance, and couples who rise from the ashes stronger than before, then you've found your home. Hit that subscribe button and join us, because in this world loyalty is everything, and we're building an empire of storytellers who crave darkness wrapped in devotion. Don't let this story slip through your fingers like smoke. Since then he survived on the careful ministrations of his sister Minji, who blamed herself for not accompanying Naomi that night and brought him tea every evening with trembling hands. And on the unwavering support of Jae-sung, his childhood friend and second-in-command, who repeated every day, "I'll handle the organization. You just focus on healing. I'm with you, brother." Kneeling before the black granite stone, Han let the weight of loss crush him all at once. He ran his tattooed fingers over the cold inscription, murmuring in Korean, "Beloved wife, forever in my heart. How am I supposed to live, Naomi, if you're gone?" The tears fell without shame. He pulled a black lotus from his coat, her favorite flower, the one he'd given her on their first date, and pressed it against the stone as if it were her face. "You promised we'd face everything together, remember? And now I don't know how to survive without you." Inside, a hurricane of thoughts destroyed him. What if I'd gone with her? What if I'd protected her better? What if this is my punishment for the blood on my hands? What Han couldn't see was the woman 20 feet behind him, hidden behind an ancient oak tree, her hand pressed to her mouth to stifle her sobs. Naomi Woojin was alive. And the people responsible for her death were standing right behind her husband, watching him grieve, counting down the days until they'd bury him too. Every city has a heartbeat. In Los Angeles's Koreatown, that pulse belongs to Han Woojin, and right now it's barely a whisper. The penthouse on Wilshire Boulevard sits in darkness except for a single light in the master bedroom where Han stares at the ceiling, his body a map of violence. Bullet scars across his ribs, knife wounds on his shoulders, fresh bruises from the underground fight club he visited to feel something other than the hollow ache consuming him. His phone shows 47 missed calls. He ignores them all. At 11:47 p.m. he rises like a corpse from a grave, pulls on his suit, and Dae-young, his head of security, doesn't even try to stop him anymore. They all know where he's going. The cemetery swallows him whole. Forest Lawn Memorial at midnight exists in another dimension. Mist curling between headstones, coyotes howling from Griffith Park, the crunch of gravel under Italian leather. Han's guards fan out, checking sightlines, while he approaches the grave that's become his shrine. He kneels in damp grass, ruining another suit he'll burn tomorrow, and pulls out a single red rose. "Naomi ya," he whispers, voice breaking. "I killed 3 men today. They disrespected your memory. Said it was time to move on. That 6 months is enough mourning for a wife." He laughs and it sounds like shattering glass. "I'll mourn you until my last breath. And if there's hell waiting for men like me, I'll mourn you there too." What Han doesn't see, the woman behind the oak tree, hand pressed to her lips, tears streaming down scarred cheeks. Naomi wears a black hoodie hiding burn marks that crawl up her left arm like evidence of resurrection. Her hair, once long and lustrous, is now short and dark. She's lost 20 pounds. But her eyes, those eyes that once looked at Han with fearless love, are now haunted by betrayal. Heels on gravel. Minji approaches in a designer coat, perfect makeup masking perfect deception. "Appa, you'll catch your death out here." She carries a thermos and Naomi's entire body goes rigid. She knows what's inside. Aconite. Monk's hood. Poison disguised as comfort. Han doesn't look up. Go home, Minji. Not until you drink this. Minji kneels, unscrewing the cap. Steam rises, carrying ginger and honey and death. You haven't eaten today. Han takes the thermos, and Naomi watches her husband drink poison while his sister smiles. The Mexicans are moving on our territory, Minji says. Jae-sung says. Jae-sung says a lot lately. For a moment Han's voice carries the old danger, the old steel. But then he looks at the grave and the fire dies. Let him handle it. The families are asking if you're still fit to lead. Han's shoulders tighten, but instead of striking he simply nods. Maybe they're right to wonder. The words hit Naomi like bullets. This isn't her husband. Her Han never doubted, never wavered. He went to war with 3 gangs to claim her, burned down a casino for her honor. Grief has gutted him, leaving a shell that Minji is slowly killing. After Minji leaves, Han stays another hour talking to the dead about the empire they built, about how the world has lost all color. Naomi memorizes every word, stores them as ammunition. When Han finally leaves, Naomi emerges from shadow. She approaches her own grave, fingers tracing the lie carved in stone. She remembers everything. The warehouse, the gasoline, Minji's face in the window as Jae-sung sealed the door. The explosion that threw her through a wall instead of killing her. 3 months healing in a clinic that asked no questions. 6 weeks watching her world burn. Footsteps return. Jae-sung appears, lighting a cigarette at her headstone. Stupid bitch, he mutters in Korean. Your death is killing him faster than the poison. Minji wanted it quick, but this way is better. Watching the great Han Woojin crumble. Poetic. Naomi's hand finds the knife at her thigh. 10 steps. 1 slash. Justice. But not yet. Not without everything she needs. Jae-sung grinds his cigarette out on the headstone and walks away, phone to his ear. He drank it all. 2 weeks, maybe 3. He's completely broken. Even if someone told him the truth now, I don't think he'd believe it. The terrible truth crystallizes. She's waited too long. Han is dying faster than his body, his spirit is already gone. If she doesn't act now, there won't be anything left to save. Naomi pulls out a black lotus, the flower from their first date, and places it on Han's windshield. A ghost's message. A whisper from the dead. The game has begun. As she disappears into the Los Angeles night, she doesn't see the figure watching from the shadows. Minji pulls out her phone, captures a photo of the retreating silhouette, and her lips curl into something predatory. Well, Minji whispers. This just got interesting. The penthouse has 13 entry points. Naomi knows because she designed the security system 3 years ago, back when she was Han's wife, his partner, his equal. What Minji and Jae-sung don't know is that Naomi built herself a backdoor. A service entrance connected to the ventilation system, accessible only with a keycard that's supposed to be destroyed. Naomi kept hers. He keeps lots of things people assume are gone. At 2:47 a.m., while Han sleeps at his fortified house in Los Feliz, because even grief-stricken mafia bosses know better than to be predictable, Naomi scales the maintenance ladder to the 45th floor. The ventilation shaft is tight, claustrophobic, and each movement sends pain lancing through her burned scars. But she's learned to breathe through agony. 20 minutes of crawling through darkness and she's in the walls. Through the vents she hears everything. Guards changing shifts. The hum of the refrigerator. And voices from Han's private office. The soundproofed room where she used to sit on his desk, distracting him with kisses until business turned into pleasure. Now Minji's voice echoes from that sacred space, sharp with triumph. The Lee family is on board. They'll support the transition when the time comes. And the Russians? Jae-sung asks. Naomi peers through the vent slats and sees them clearly, Minji lounging in Han's leather chair, feet on his mahogany desk. Jae-sung pouring whiskey from their wedding bottle, saved for special occasions. Dmitri wants assurances. I told him we're more efficient than my sentimental brother. Minji swirls her glass. The problem is timing. The doctor says his heart could go any day, but it might take another month. We need him dead before the quarterly meeting. Jae-sung sits too close to Minji. There's an intimacy there that speaks of conspiracy, of 2 people who've crossed every line together. We could accelerate. Double the dose. Risky. The autopsy needs to show natural causes. A rival gang's revenge for Naomi's death. Hearing her own name makes Naomi press her face against cold metal, recording everything on her phone. I still think we should have killed her cleaner, Jae-sung says. The warehouse was messy. The warehouse was perfect. Min-ji stands and Naomi sees the woman who welcomed her into the family, who promised they'd always be sisters. That woman never existed. It gave Han someone to blame besides us. And her death broke him exactly as planned. A quick bullet would have made him angry. This made him hollow. You're sure he suspects nothing? Min-ji laughs like breaking crystal. Today he asked if I thought Naomi could see him from heaven. I told him yes. That she was proud of him. He actually cried. The cruelty steals Naomi's breath. This isn't just murder, it's torture. Jae-sung moves to the wall safe, inputs a code, Naomi's birthday backwards, and removes a folder. The forged will is perfect. When Han dies, everything transfers to you and I get operational control. 50-50 split. Just like we planned 5 years ago. Jae-sung pulls Min-ji close and they kiss deep and possessive. When you first came to me after Han chose that black bitch over the family. Naomi's vision goes red. Her hand finds her knife. Not yet. Evidence first. He chose her over us, over tradition, over everything our fathers built, Jae-sung continues. Do you know what it's like being a woman in this world? Min-ji's voice drips venom. Watching my idiot brother get everything because he has a dick? I'm smarter, more ruthless, better with strategy. But Han gets the empire because of chromosomes. She picks up a wedding photo and Naomi's heart clenches seeing her own joy captured forever. And then he brings in this outsider and elevates her above me. His own blood. Wounded pride. Racism. Misogyny. The toxic cocktail that turns family into vipers. 2 more weeks, Jae-sung says. 3 at most. Then it's ours. They toast with Han's wedding whiskey and Naomi records every second. For 3 hours, Naomi remains in the walls, watching them dismantle Han's empire. When they finally leave, she waits 30 minutes before emerging into the mausoleum of her former life. Everything is exactly as she left it. Her books, her unwashed coffee mug, her jacket by the door. But it's tainted now by knowledge of betrayal. She photographs documents, copies files from Han's computer. Password still, Naomi Forever 88. And finds the poison hidden in a container labeled ginger root. She finds the forged will. And then she finds something that stops her cold. A journal on Han's nightstand. With shaking hands she opens it. Day 47 without Naomi. I held her wedding dress today, tried to smell her perfume. Nothing. Naomi wasn't just my wife. She was the only person who saw me, not the boss, not the killer. Just Han. She saw me and loved me anyway. How do I let go of the only person who ever made me real? Tears blur the words as she reads page after page of his agony. The last entry destroys her. Day 183. I think I'm dying. Maybe that's okay. Maybe I should join her. Oh Han, she whispers. I'm so sorry I left you alone. But she's not leaving him alone anymore. Naomi takes the journal, uploads everything to encrypted servers. Then she goes to their closet to the back corner where Han keeps forgotten things. There, wrapped in black silk, is her first anniversary gift. A custom Tonto knife engraved with coordinates of where they first met. That night they were supposed to hate each other. Instead they fell in love hard enough to start a war. She leaves the knife on Han's pillow, positioned exactly how she used to leave surprises. No note. Just the knife and its engraved memory. Then she slips back into darkness and makes her way out. But as she emerges onto the street, pulling her hood against the 4 a.m. chill, a black Mercedes pulls up beside her. The window rolls down. Min-ji's smile is cold as death. Hello Naomi. We need to talk. Naomi freezes as Min-ji's smile cuts through the darkness like a blade. But the woman in the Mercedes isn't Min-ji. Just a drunk clubgoer who mistakes Naomi for someone else. Sorry, thought you were my friend, the woman slurs before the car pulls away. Naomi's heart hammers against her ribs as she disappears into the pre-dawn shadows. Min-ji's actual threats still fresh in her mind from the cemetery. She's running out of time. The next morning Han finds the black lotus on his windshield. His hand trembles as he picks it up, the rare flower identical to the ones he brought Naomi on their first date. Dae-young approaches cautiously. Boss, should I check the security footage? No. Han's voice is barely a whisper. His fingers trace the delicate petals, and for the first time in 6 months, something besides grief stirs in his chest. Confusion. Hope. Terror. That night his phone rings from an unknown number. He answers to silence, then their song, Moon River, the jazz standard that played in the warehouse where they first met, where they were supposed to negotiate territory but instead fell in love across a table stained with someone else's blood. Han's breath catches. Who is this? Only more music, then the line goes dead. Jae-sung finds him staring at his phone like it holds the secrets of the universe. You look like you've seen a ghost. Maybe I have. Han's instincts, dulled by grief and poison, begin to sharpen like a knife finding its edge. The third message comes as a text, coordinates. Han recognizes them instantly, the warehouse where Naomi died. It's a trap, Jae-sung insists, his concern a little too practiced. The Hmong gang playing mind games. But Han goes anyway, taking only Dae-young, his gun loaded and his heart threatening to explode from his chest. The warehouse is exactly as he left it 6 months ago. Burned, condemned, haunted. He walks through the skeletal remains, and on the wall where Naomi's body was supposedly found, someone has spray-painted a message in her handwriting. Remember who you are. Han's knees nearly buckle. Either he's losing his mind, or the universe is offering him a miracle wrapped in impossible questions. Meanwhile, Naomi watches from a neighboring rooftop through binoculars, her heart aching as Han traces her words with tattooed fingers. She wants to run to him, but Minji's surveillance team circles the perimeter. Not yet. The game intensifies. More clues. A voicemail with Naomi's laugh. Something Han recorded on their honeymoon. A package containing the earrings he gave her for their first anniversary, the ones that were supposedly destroyed in the fire. Each breadcrumb pushes Han closer to the edge of sanity and closer to the truth. Friday night, Han's nightclub pulses with bodies and bass. He sits in the VIP section, drinking whiskey and scanning the crowd with predator eyes. Minji watches him with growing concern. Appa, you need rest. You're not yourself. Maybe I'm finally becoming myself again. Then he sees her. Just for a second. A woman in a black dress, her profile familiar in a way that stops his heart. She's across the club, moving through the crowd like smoke. Their eyes meet and the world stops spinning. Recognition flares in Han's face. But before he can move, she's gone, swallowed by the mass of bodies. Han lunges from his seat, shoving through the crowd with Dae-young trailing. Find her. The woman in black. But she's vanished like a ghost, leaving only the faint scent of jasmine, Naomi's perfume, in her wake. Back in the VIP section, Minji's phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. A photo of her and Jae-sung kissing in Han's office, time-stamped from last night. Below it, one word. Soon. Minji's blood runs cold as she realizes the impossible truth. Naomi isn't dead. And she's coming for them all. Han receives the final message at 11:47 p.m., coordinates to the warehouse again, but this time with 3 words. Come alone. Trust me. He doesn't tell Dae-young. Doesn't tell anyone. He just drives into the industrial district with a loaded Glock and a heart that's either about to break completely or be resurrected. The warehouse looms like a cathedral of grief, moonlight streaming through the burned-out roof. Han steps inside, gun drawn, every instinct screaming danger. But then he sees her, a silhouette emerging from the shadows, and his world tilts on its axis. Hello, Han. Naomi's voice hits him like a bullet. He stumbles back, the gun nearly falling from his hands. No. You're dead. I buried you. You buried a lie. She steps into the moonlight and he sees everything. The short hair, the burned scars on her arm, the weight she's lost. But it's her. It's undeniably her. Han's disbelief crashes into rage. 6 months. 6 fucking months, Naomi. Do you know what you... But his words die as she closes the distance between them, and suddenly they're colliding. His hands in her hair, her fingers clutching his jacket. The kiss is violent and desperate, years of passion and pain exploding between them. He's crying and she's crying and neither can breathe but neither can stop. I'm sorry, she gasps against his mouth. Han, I'm so sorry. They tried to kill me. Mindy and Jae-young, they locked me in here, set the fire. I barely escaped. I've been hiding, gathering evidence. Evidence? Han pulls back, his hands framing her face like he's afraid she'll disappear. Evidence of what? Everything. Naomi's voice hardens. The conspiracy. The poison they've been giving you. The forged will. They've been planning this for 5 years, Han. Since the day you chose me over tradition. Han's grief transforms into something colder, sharper. The tea. Aconite. Slow acting. Mimics heart disease. She pulls out her phone, shows him the recordings, the documents, the proof of betrayal so complete it steals his breath. Your own sister. Your best friend. They want you dead and they want your empire. The fury that builds in Han is biblical. The kind that starts wars and ends bloodlines. But before he can speak, gunfire shatters the moment. Bullets tear through the warehouse walls, and Han throws Naomi behind a concrete pillar as Minji's soldiers flood in through 3 entrances. You let them here. Naomi hisses, but there's no accusation in her voice, just tactical assessment. I was careful. Han returns fire, dropping 2 soldiers with precision shots. They must have been tracking me for weeks. Naomi produces her own gun, a 6-hour she's kept hidden, and they move as one, the deadly synchronization of partners who've fought together before. She covers left while he reloads. He provides suppressing fire while she flanks right. Their chemistry is lethal and perfect, a dance choreographed in violence and trust. Just like old times, Han growls, dropping another soldier. Better. Naomi shoots out a spotlight, plunging half the warehouse into darkness. Tao, I'm angry. They fight their way to the back exit, leaving bodies in their wake. Outside, a soldier guards a motorcycle, one of Han's custom bikes. Han shoots him without hesitation, then pulls Naomi onto the seat behind him. Her arms wrap around his waist, and for the first time in 6 months he feels whole. The engine roars to life. Sirens wail in the distance. Han tears through the industrial district with Naomi pressed against his back, her heartbeat syncing with his through leather and adrenaline. Behind them, the warehouse erupts in flames. Someone's desperate attempt to destroy evidence, or them, or both. Where are we going? Naomi shouts over the wind. Somewhere safe. Somewhere I can make them pay for every second I thought you were dead. Han's voice is cold fury wrapped in desperate love. And then, Naomi, he takes a corner at dangerous speed, the motorcycle leaning into the turn. Then we're going to burn their world down. In her Beverly Hills apartment, Minji receives a call from her team leader. We lost them. And boss, there's something you need to know. The woman with Han, it was her. It was Naomi. Minji drops her wine glass and red liquid spreads across white carpet like blood. Impossible. But the photo that arrives seconds later proves otherwise. Han and Naomi on the motorcycle, very much alive, very much together, and very much coming for revenge. The war has begun. If you're still breathing after that reunion, if your heart is racing as fast as that motorcycle disappearing into the Los Angeles night, then drop a comment below. Tell me, did you see the betrayal coming? Are you ready for the blood that's about to be spilled? And hit subscribe, because Han and Naomi's revenge is just beginning, and you don't want to miss a single moment of the reckoning that's coming. The Safe House is a studio apartment above a Korean barbecue restaurant in the heart of Koreatown, one of Han's secret locations that predates Minji and Jae-sung's rise to power. The smell of grilling meat and garlic rises through the floorboards as Han locks the door behind them, finally alone with the ghost he's mourned for 6 months. Naomi turns to face him and the dam breaks. They crash together with the force of 6 months of grief, rage, and desperate love. Han's hands are everywhere, her face, her hair, tracing the burn scars on her arm like he's memorizing proof she's real. I died without you, he whispers against her neck, his voice breaking. Every day I died. I know. I watched you die. Naomi pulls him closer, fierce and desperate. I watched them kill you slowly and I couldn't. Her words dissolve into kisses that taste like tears and fury and promises written in blood. They make love like people who've survived death itself. Violent and tender, reclaiming each other with touch and whispered vows of vengeance. Afterwards, tangled in sheets that smell like sesame oil and salvation, they plan their war. Naomi spreads the evidence across the small table. Photos, recordings, financial documents. Minji's corrupted at least half your organization. The Lee family, 3 of your lieutenants, your accountant, even some of your guards. A direct confrontation would split everything you've built down the middle. Han studies the evidence with cold calculation, The grief-broken man from the cemetery replaced by the tactician who built an empire. Then we don't confront them directly. We make them think they've won. What are you saying? I fake my death. Han's eyes are hard as diamonds. The poison is already doing its work. I play along, get weaker, more erratic. Then we stage an assassination. Public, bloody, convincing. Minji and Jae-sung make their move to seize power, consolidate their allies. And when they're celebrating their victory, I return from the dead. Naomi's smile is sharp enough to cut. We expose them in front of everyone. The families, the rivals, the whole underworld. We destroy them psychologically before we destroy them literally. Exactly. Han traces her burned scars with gentle fingers. But it has to be perfect. One mistake and we lose everything. They spend hours planning every detail. The assassination will happen at Han's favorite restaurant, neutral territory where the families often meet. They'll need a corrupt coroner, blood squibs, a closed casket. Most critically, they need soldiers they can trust absolutely. Han makes 4 phone calls. Each to men who owe him their lives, who knew Naomi, who would die before betraying them. By dawn, they have their small army, loyal, lethal, and hungry for justice. There's one more thing, Naomi says quietly. To sell this, you need to actually be dying. The poison needs to show in your blood, your behavior. Minji's doctor will examine you. Han understands immediately. I keep drinking the tea. In controlled doses. I have antidotes, but Han. Naomi grips his hand. You'll be poisoning yourself. The pain will be real. The weakness will be real. Can you do that? Han pulls her close, his voice steel wrapped in silk. For you. For us. I drink the whole bottle. He kisses her forehead, her scars, her lips. They think grief made me weak. Let them keep thinking that. Let them believe they've broken the great Han Wujin. His eyes burn with cold fire. And when we rise from the dead, when we stand before them with all their sins exposed, that's when they'll understand what we really are. What's that? Naomi whispers. Inevitable. That evening, back at his Los Feliz house, Han pours himself the poisoned tea. His hands don't shake. He thinks of Naomi, alive and waiting as he drinks death in measured sips. Minji arrives 20 minutes later with concerned eyes and a practiced smile. Appa, you look terrible. Should I call the doctor? Han lets himself sway slightly, lets his eyes unfocus just enough. Maybe you're right. Maybe I do need help. Minji's smile widens, triumphant and cruel. She doesn't see the predator hiding behind his weakness, doesn't see the trap closing around her throat. The performance of his life has begun. And the finale will be written in blood. The transformation takes 7 days. Han becomes a masterclass in controlled deterioration. Each day a little weaker, a little more erratic, a little closer to the grave. On Monday he collapses during a meeting with the Russians, hand clutching his chest as Dmitri watches with predatory interest. On Wednesday he screams at Dae-young over nothing, then breaks down crying, apologizing to Naomi's ghost. By Friday his hands shake so badly he can barely hold his gun. It's not entirely an act. The poison is real, the pain is real, and every night Han forces himself to vomit what he can while Naomi administers antidotes through an 4-line in the safe house. She watches him suffer, watches the poison and the cure wage war in his body, and it takes everything in her not to stop the whole plan. I can take more, Han insists through gritted teeth, sweat soaking the sheets. I need to be convincing. You're dying, Han. Slowly but dying. Naomi's hands shake as she adjusts the 4. If we push too far. Then we push too far. He grabs her hand with surprising strength. Better to die trying than live as their victim. She kisses him then, tasting salt and suffering in love so fierce it could burn down cities. Minji grows bolder with each of Han's bad days. She countermands his orders in front of his men, speaks over him in meetings, makes decisions about territory that should be his alone. My brother isn't well, she tells the families with practiced concern. Until he recovers, I'll be handling operations. Jae-sung is even worse. He courts the other crime families like a politician, promising a new era of efficiency and profit. Han's time is ending, he says over expensive dinners and expensive whiskey. The question is whether you'll adapt or be left behind. From the digital feeds Naomi monitors obsessively, she watches her empire being dismantled piece by piece. She records everything, every betrayal, every conspiracy, every smile that hides a knife. The evidence grows like a cancer, malignant and undeniable. On day 7, Han can barely stand. His skin has taken on a grayish cast, his eyes are sunken, and when he looks in the mirror he sees a corpse staring back. Perfect. Tonight, he tells Naomi through their encrypted line. Hanbok Palace, 8 p.m. Be ready. Hanbok Palace is Han's favorite restaurant, a traditional Korean establishment where crime families often meet on neutral ground. Han arrives with only Dae-young, moving like every step costs him. The owner seats him at his usual table and Han orders his usual meal, playing the part of a man going through the motions of living. At 8:47 p.m., 3 masked men burst through the entrance. Automatic weapons. Professional stance. They open fire immediately and the restaurant erupts into chaos. Diners scream and dive for cover. Glass shatters. Wood splinters. Han's chest explodes in blood, the squibs Naomi planted under his shirt detonating perfectly. He falls backward, his chair crashing to the floor, red spreading across white shirt like a blooming flower. Dae-young returns fire, dropping one shooter, but the others escape into the Los Angeles night. Boss, stay with me. Dae-young's panic is real, he's one of the few not in on the plan. Han's eyes flutter, blood bubbling from his lips. Corn syrup and food coloring, but convincing in the chaos. His hand reaches up, grasping at nothing, then falls limp. The ambulance arrives. Paramedics, paid by Naomi, loyal to the core, work frantically, performing CPR that looks desperate but carefully avoids actually reviving him. They load Han into the ambulance and as the doors close, one paramedic meets Dae-young's devastated gaze. I'm sorry. He's gone. The news spreads through Los Angeles' underworld like wildfire. Text messages. Phone calls. Whispered conversations in dark rooms. By midnight, everyone knows. Han Woo-jin, the king of Koreatown, is dead. In her Beverly Hills apartment, Minji receives the call and has to bite her lip to keep from smiling. She waits exactly 3 minutes, long enough to seem shocked, not so long as to seem callous, then calls Jae-sung. It's done, she whispers. He's really gone. Are you sure? No tricks, no. I have people at the hospital. They confirmed it. Han Woo-jin is dead. Minji pours herself champagne, her hands steady as stone. The empire is ours. What neither of them knows is that in the morgue the body being processed is not Han but a cadaver procured specifically for this moment. And in a basement across town, Han Woo-jin lies on a medical table, alive as Naomi works frantically to flush the poison from his system and keep him breathing through the worst performance of his life. Stay with me, she whispers, tears streaming down her face as she works. Stay with me, Han. We're almost there. Just a little longer. His eyes flutter open, focusing on her with difficulty. Did it work? They think you're dead. They're celebrating as we speak. Han's smile is weak but razor sharp. Good. Let them celebrate. Let them feel safe. His hand finds hers, squeezes with what strength he has left. Because when we come back, Naomi finishes, her voice hard as diamonds, we're coming back for blood. Los Angeles' criminal underworld descends on Koreatown like ravens to a corpse. Within 24 hours of Han's death, the vultures begin circling. The Russians send flowers, white lilies with a card that reads respectful condolences, but means we're watching. The Mexican cartels dispatch representatives who speak of loss while mentally carving up Han's territory. The Chinese triads arrive with expensive wreaths and expensive smiles, calculating profit margins in the vacuum of power. Minji plays her role with Oscar-worthy precision. She wears Dior black, her makeup perfectly smudged to suggest recent tears. At the funeral home, she greets each crime family with trembling hands and a voice that breaks at exactly the right moments. Thank you for coming. Han would have, she can't finish, pressing a silk handkerchief to her eyes. I'm sorry. It's just so sudden. The families eat it up. Your brother was a great man, Dmitri says, his Russian accent thick with false sympathy. If there's anything we can do during this transition. Minji lets the word hang in the air, fragile and uncertain. I suppose someone will need to manage operations until, she trails off, helpless and feminine and exactly what these men expect. Jae-sung arrives like a savior in Armani. Minji, you shouldn't be dealing with business right now. Let me handle this. He turns to the assembled families with confidence that's been carefully calibrated to seem reluctant. Han trusted me with his operations. Until the family decides on succession, I'll ensure everything runs smoothly. You have my word, your partnerships will remain intact. The families exchange glances. Some skeptical, some opportunistic, all making rapid calculations about whether Jae-sung can hold Han's empire together or whether this is their chance to expand. Behind closed doors, Minji and Jae-sung are anything but grieving. They plan an elaborate funeral for Friday, the kind of spectacle that befits a king and broadcasts legitimacy to the underworld. Cathedral service. Mahogany casket. Korean traditional music mixed with modern elegance. Every crime family in Los Angeles will attend, which means every crime family will witness the transfer of power. After the funeral, we host a private reception, Minji says, reviewing guest lists in Han's office, now her office. Her feet are on his desk, his chair molded to her spine. Just the inner circle. We announce the new structure, get everyone to sign off on the transition. And then the empire is ours. Jae-sung pours whiskey, Han's private reserve, the good stuff. 5 years of planning finally paying off. But strange things keep happening. On Tuesday, flowers appear at Han's penthouse. Black lotus blooms with no card, no sender. Security footage shows no delivery. Minji throws them away, but her hands shake. Wednesday brings phantom phone calls. Minji's cell rings at 3 a.m., but when she answers there's only breathing, and what sounds like Naomi's laugh, distant and distorted. Impossible, she whispers to the darkness. She's dead. They're both dead. Thursday, Jae-sung swears he sees someone in the shadows outside the funeral home. A woman with short dark hair who vanishes before he can get close. You're imagining things, Minji snaps, but her voice carries an edge of hysteria. It's just stress. Guilt maybe. Guilt. Jae-sung pulls her close, his kiss demanding and possessive. We have nothing to feel guilty about. Han was weak. He chose that woman over everything our fathers built. He deserved what he got. And she deserved to burn, Minji agrees, but her eyes keep darting to the shadows. Friday morning they rehearse their speeches in the empty cathedral. Minji practices her eulogy. My brother was my hero, my protector, my family. While Jae-sung times his remarks about legacy and leadership. They're alone except for the workers arranging flowers, setting up the sound system, positioning the closed casket at the altar. That evening, back in Minji's apartment, they toast their success with Cristal champagne. To Han, Minji says with a smile that's pure venom. May he rest in peace while we enjoy everything he left behind. To Han, Jae-sung echoes. The fool who loved too much and lost everything. Their glasses clink and champagne bubbles like laughter or gasoline. What they don't see are the microcameras Naomi planted throughout Minji's apartment during her earlier reconnaissance. What they don't know is that every word, every toast, every confession is being recorded in crystal-clear high definition. And what they can't possibly imagine is that across the city, Han Woojin sits in the safe house watching the feed with Naomi beside him, both of them cataloging every word for the reckoning that's coming. Tomorrow, Han says quietly, his strength finally returning after days of purging poison from his system. Tomorrow they bury an empty casket and celebrate their victory. And then, Naomi's hand finds his, fingers intertwining. Han's smile is sharp enough to draw blood. And then the dead rise. And the vultures learn what happens when you feast on a king who never died. The funeral is set for 2 p.m. The resurrection will come at 2:47. Exactly 6 months after Naomi's supposed death. Exactly long enough for the traitors to believe they've won. The cathedral is a masterpiece of Gothic architecture. Vaulted ceilings, stained glass that paints the pews in crimson and gold. Enough space for 300 mourners who've come to witness the end of an era. Los Angeles's entire criminal underworld fills the seats. Russians in the front left, Mexican cartels front right, Chinese triads strategically positioned in the middle. Corrupt politicians sit near the back, maintaining plausible deniability. Legitimate businessmen who owed Han favors occupy the balcony, their presence a testament to how deeply his influence ran. The closed mahogany casket sits before the altar, draped in white silk and surrounded by enough flowers to stock a wedding. Or a massacre. Minji takes the pulpit in black Chanel, her face a perfect mask of grief. My brother was my hero, she begins, her voice breaking beautifully. From the time we were children, Han protected me. He taught me strength, honor, loyalty. The hypocrisy drips like honey and several mourners dab at their eyes. He built an empire not through cruelty but through vision. And though he's gone, her voice cracks. His legacy will live forever. The applause is respectful, somber. Minji returns to her seat and Jae-sung takes her place. He's dressed in a black suit that cost more than most people's cars, his hair perfectly styled, his expression carved from practiced sorrow. Han Woojin was more than my boss. He was my brother. Jae-sung grips the pulpit. We built this organization together side by side through blood and sacrifice. And now that he's gone, I pledge to honor his memory by continuing his work. By protecting what he built. By... The cathedral doors explode open with a sound like a gunshot. Every head turns. Every breath stops. And Han Woojin walks down the center aisle in a black suit, very much alive, his steps echoing like judgment itself. Beside him, Naomi Woojin moves like a vengeful goddess in a crimson dress that flows around her like fresh blood. Her burned scars are visible, deliberate, a testimony of survival and rage. The shock ripples through the cathedral like a physical force. Several mourners gasp. Dmitri half rises from his seat. A Chinese triad boss crosses himself despite not being religious. And at the altar, Minji's face drains of all color while Jae-sung stumbles backward, his carefully practiced composure shattering like glass. I hope I'm not late to my own funeral, Han says, his voice carrying to every corner of the cathedral. That would be rude. His loyal soldiers. The 4 men he called that night in the safe house plus Dae-young, who's been in on the plan from the start, seal the exits with military precision. Doors slam shut. Locks click. No one is leaving. What is this? Minji's voice is barely a whisper. This is impossible. You're dead. We saw. You saw what we wanted you to see. Naomi's voice is cold steel. Just like you wanted Han to see my death. Massive screens descend from the ceiling. Equipment Naomi's team installed during the funeral preparations while pretending to be AV technicians. The footage begins playing immediately, crystal clear, damning as hellfire. Minji and Jae-sung in Han's office, toasting to their impending empire. He chose that black bitch over the family. The words echo through the cathedral and several attendees shift uncomfortably. Minji laughing about the warehouse fire. Her death broke him exactly as planned. This made him hollow. Jae-sung discussing the forged will, the poison, the timeline for Han's death. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Then it's ours. Their kiss deep and treacherous. Their conspiracy laid bare for every crime family, every ally, every witness to see. The revelation triggers chaos. Mourners erupt in shocked conversation. The Russians look at each other with raised eyebrows. The Mexicans start calculating new alliances. Minji's carefully constructed political capital evaporates in seconds. Jae-sung reaches for the gun at his hip, but he's not fast enough. Dae-young, who loved Naomi like a sister, who mourned her like family, fires first. The shot catches Jae-sung in the shoulder, spinning him around. He falls against the altar, blood staining the white silk of the casket. You betrayed us, Dae-young says, his voice breaking. We were brothers. You were always weak, Jae-sung gasps, reaching for his gun again. Just like Han. Too soft, too. The second shot is louder, final. Jae-sung crumples, his blood pooling beneath the casket that was supposed to hold Han's body. Minji tries to run, but Naomi is faster. She intercepts her sister-in-law at the side door, and the confrontation is everything 6 months of rage has been building toward. You locked me in that warehouse, Naomi says, each word a knife. You watched me burn. You deserved it. Minji screams, all pretense of grief abandoned. You were nothing. A whore from a rival family who seduced my brother, who poisoned his mind against his own blood. I loved him. Naomi's voice drops to something deadly. And he loved me. That's what you couldn't stand. Not that I was an outsider. That I was chosen over you. Minji lunges with a hidden knife. She's always been a fighter beneath the designer clothes. But Naomi spent 6 months surviving, 6 months training, 6 months preparing for this exact moment. She sidesteps, catches Minji's wrist, and twists until the knife clatters to the marble floor. You want to know the difference between us? Naomi slams Minji against the wall, her forearm across the other woman's throat. I would have died for Han. You killed him for power you were never strong enough to hold. Han appears beside them, and the look he gives his sister is colder than any grave. Min, you have 10 seconds to explain why I shouldn't let Naomi finish what you started. Minji's tears are real now, terror and rage and the devastating reality of complete defeat. I'm your sister. Your blood. That has to mean. You poisoned me. You killed my wife. You betrayed everything our father built. Han's voice could freeze fire. Blood means nothing when it's spilled by family. He nods to Naomi, who releases Minji, not out of mercy but because death would be too kind. Instead, Han turns to the assembled families, all watching with the sharp attention of predators recognizing a power shift. Minji and Jaesung tried to steal my empire through poison and lies. Their punishment is exile. They leave Los Angeles tonight with nothing but their lives. If they ever return, Han's pause is pregnant with violence. They won't leave again. It's a sentence worse than death for people who crave power. Minji collapses and 2 of Han's soldiers drag her toward the exit. She's sobbing, screaming, but no one moves to help her. The cathedral is silent except for the sound of her desperation fading into distance. Han takes Naomi's hand, their fingers intertwining, and faces the assembled underworld. My wife and I have returned, and anyone who questions our right to rule is welcome to challenge us now. No one moves. No one speaks. The message is clear. The king and queen have reclaimed their throne, and their reign will be written in the blood of anyone foolish enough to forget it. The aftermath unfolds with the brutal efficiency of a mafia reckoning. By underworld law, with evidence presented before the assembled families and witnesses from every major organization, Han's justice is absolute and unquestionable. Minji's remaining conspirators, the lieutenants who sold their loyalty, the guards who looked the other way, the accountant who forged documents, are identified within hours. By nightfall they've all disappeared. Los Angeles has many places to hide bodies. The ocean. The desert. Concrete foundations of buildings under construction. Han knows them all. He doesn't take pleasure in it the way he once might have. That's the thing about resurrection, you come back different, harder, colder. Trust is now a currency Han spends so rarely it might as well be extinct. Even Dae-young, whose loyalty never wavered, finds himself under more scrutiny than before. Naomi understands. She's changed too. The woman who married Han with fearless love has been tempered in fire, and what emerged is something sharper, more dangerous. They rebuild the organization in 3 days. New lieutenants, new protocols, new systems where every decision requires multiple verifications. The Russians respect it. The Mexicans appreciate the efficiency. The other families take note. The Wu-Jeans are not to be fucked with. Ever. But on the 4th day at dawn, when Los Angeles is still sleeping off its sins, Han and Naomi return to Forest Lawn Memorial. They're alone. No guards, no witnesses, just 2 people who died and came back to burn down the lies between them. Naomi's false grave stands exactly as Han left it 6 months ago. Black granite. Crimson veins. Forever in my heart, beloved wife. The words mock them both. A monument to betrayal disguised as love. I used to kneel here every night, Han says quietly, his hand finding Naomi's. Talking to you like you could hear me. Begging for forgiveness for not saving you. I was always listening. Naomi's voice breaks. Watching you break, unable to reach you. That was worse than the fire, Han. Watching them destroy you and being powerless to stop it. They stand in silence for a long moment, hands intertwined, mourning not the deaths they faked but the innocence they lost. Then Han pulls out the detonator. Compact, professional, loaded with enough C4 to reduce the headstone to atoms. Together, he asks. Always, Naomi answers. Their fingers press the button as one. The explosion is controlled but spectacular. A crack of thunder that shatters marble into dust and debris. The monument that proclaimed Naomi's death disintegrates into nothing, and in the settling smoke and sunrise light, they hold each other like survivors of a war that nobody else will ever truly understand. We should leave, Han whispers against her hair. Los Angeles has too many ghosts. Too many memories. We could go somewhere new, start over where nobody knows our names or our scars. Naomi pulls back to look at him. This man who went to war for her twice, who drank poison to avenge her, who rose from death itself because living without her was a worse fate. Yes. But not yet. One more thing first. 6 hours later, they stand in Los Angeles International Airport, private terminal, boarding a jet bound for Seoul. Behind them, the empire is in capable hands. Dae-young promoted to operational control, new structures in place, systems that will run smoothly without requiring Han's constant presence. They've built something that can survive their absence. That's its own kind of legacy. As the plane taxis down the runway, Han watches Los Angeles shrink beneath them. The city that tried to bury them both, that poisoned their love with betrayal, that forced them to die to live. The Hollywood sign. The sprawl of Koreatown. The cemetery where he mourned a ghost. Any regrets? Naomi asks, her hand in his, their fingers intertwined like they'll never let go again. Han turns to look at her. Burned scars and short hair and eyes that have seen death and chosen life anyway. For 6 months, when he looked at her memory, he saw a ghost. A beautiful corpse. A love story ended in fire. Now he sees his future. Scarred but alive. Damaged but unbroken. His wife, his partner, his equal in all things including survival. Only one, he says, pulling her close. That I didn't trust my instincts sooner. That I let grief blind me to the truth. We both made mistakes. Naomi kisses him soft and fierce. But we're alive, Han. Against everything they did, we're alive and together and free. The plane lifts off, and Los Angeles becomes a memory beneath the clouds. Their legends secure, their enemies destroyed, their love tested by death itself and found strong enough to survive. They've spent 6 months dying. Now 30,000 feet above the city that tried to bury them, Han Woojin and Naomi Woojin finally allow themselves to breathe. To heal. To plan a future that belongs to them alone. The dead have risen. The ghosts have been laid to rest. And somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, as Naomi falls asleep against Han's shoulder and he watches the sun paint the clouds in gold, Han realizes something profound. Resurrection isn't about coming back unchanged. It's about dying to who you were and becoming who you need to be. They are no longer the couple who built an empire on love and vision. They are something harder now, forged in betrayal and tempered in vengeance. And maybe that's exactly who they need to be to survive the world they've inherited. The plane flies east toward morning, toward Seoul, toward whatever comes next. Behind them, Los Angeles fades into memory and legend. The city where 2 people died and 2 ghosts rose to reclaim what was stolen. The story ends where it began, with Han and Naomi together. But this time there are no graves between them. No lies. No secrets. Just 2 survivors who learned the hardest truth. Sometimes you have to die to truly live. And sometimes love is worth burning the whole world down to protect. The empire has been reclaimed. The ghosts have been laid to rest. And Han and Naomi have proven that some loves are worth dying and killing for. If this story left you breathless, if you felt every betrayal, every bullet, every desperate kiss in the darkness, then show me. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Comment below and tell me, would you rise from the dead for the one you love? Would you burn down an empire to reclaim what's yours? Because there are more stories waiting in the shadows. Tales of dangerous love, ruthless vengeance, and couples who refuse to let death have the last word. Join this family of dark romance warriors. We're just getting started and the next story might be even deadlier. Until then, remember, in this world the dead don't stay buried. And neither should your passion for stories that make you feel alive. I'll see you in the next chapter.